Imagine waking up in America, hundreds of years before the country you know even existed. But America wasn't an empty wilderness waiting to be discovered. People had already lived across these lands for thousands of years. Long before the United States existed, hundreds of indigenous nations had their own communities, cultures, languages, and histories. These weren't empty lands. Communities farmed, traded, raised families, and built societies across the continent long before Europeans arrived. To Clara, this world might seem unfamiliar, but to the people living here, this was home.
Then, across the Atlantic, ships began arriving from Europe, and the history of the continent would change forever. European exploration soon became settlement, as newcomers began establishing permanent communities along the Atlantic coast. For the people already living here, these arrivals would eventually bring enormous and often devastating changes. Small coastal settlements grew into colonies, bringing more people, more trade, and growing competition for land.
Over generations, the colonies grew, but so did tensions with Britain, and soon, a completely new country would emerge.
By the 1770s, anger over British rule was spreading through the colonies.
In 1775, fighting began. 13 colonies entered a war that would determine their future.
By 1783, the revolution had succeeded. The United States of America was now an independent nation.
During the 1800s, the nation expanded rapidly westward, reshaping the continent and displacing many indigenous communities.
Then railroads connected distant regions, moving people, goods, and ideas across America faster than ever before.
By the late 1800s, railroads, industry, and rapidly growing cities were transforming American life.
Meanwhile, millions of immigrants crossed oceans searching for opportunity and a new life in America.
For many newcomers, the first sight of New York represented something extraordinary: the possibility of starting again. Between 1892 and 1954, more than 12 million immigrants passed through Ellis Island.
Cities exploded in size. New York became a symbol of an America growing faster, louder, and more connected than ever.
By the 1920s, America's cities were reaching toward the sky, while automobiles transformed how people lived and moved.
Mass production transformed American industry, putting cars and manufactured goods within reach of millions of families.
After World War II, millions of Americans moved into expanding suburbs as the economy and consumer culture grew rapidly.
Highways, suburbs, and enormous metropolitan areas reshaped the landscape as America entered an increasingly connected age.
Then technology began changing everyday life again, as personal computers brought the digital age into American homes and workplaces.
By the end of the century, the internet was beginning to connect Americans, and eventually billions of people, almost instantly.
In only a few centuries, the landscape Clara first saw had transformed beyond recognition.
She had watched centuries pass from communities that existed long before the United States to the modern country standing before her. America's story wasn't written in a single moment. It was shaped across generations, and its next chapter is still being written.